photo people. I'm Allie.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're the Photo Sisters.
Today we are going to talk to you about the Canon 7D. This is it. Obviously, I purchased it with no lens, with no kit lens. I basically only used my 50mm 1.4 with this camera. As you can see, I went up from a Canon Rebel to this, so the buttons and the functions are a lot different on the back. They're more similar to the 5D Mark II, but they're still not the same. The menu comes up and then it tells you you have no card. This takes a CF card, unlike the Rebel series, which I was used to, took SD cards. So the main differences that I have found with this, I love this camera. I like the bigger quality of it. It's much bigger. I currently don't have the Rebel next to me to show you.
But it would be a lot smaller.
But this feels better, and in all honesty, it's so much easier to hold because it has such a bigger grip right here. It feels really sturdy. It's really strong. It does have a pop-up flash, which I have never used. I don't even know how to...
Not a fan of the pop-up flash.
How to pop it up. I've never used it. So that's obviously not a selling point for me. But you do have your hot shoe here. If you wanted to attach a external flash to it, you could. But there's just so many more options in this camera than there was for me in the Rebel. And one of those options is something that I absolutely hated. It has the ability, a lot of photographers use this for sports. It can take a lot of pictures, rapid fire pictures, even faster rate than the 5D or 5D Mark II. But that's because it's specifically made for that. But that drove me crazy because you just touched it once and it took 7 images.
Continuous.
So I definitely turned that off right away, and I did have to change its auto-focusing, which was really creepy. Even in manual, it would focus on 4 different spots at one time. It was just really a disaster. So those were things that I had to change, and I did change to back focusing, where I just press the button right here to focus versus holding the shutter to focus, which is all things that come standard on it, and they also come standard like that on the Rebel. So once I made the settings my own, I absolutely fell in love with this camera. It feels a much higher quality than the Rebel, obviously without stepping up into the 5D. The downside of this camera is that it still does have a crop sensor. And that technically means that you can use the same lenses as you would on a full frame camera, like a 5D Mark II, Mark III, or just the 5D, but you're not going to get the full ability out of your lens. So if you were saving up to move up from your Rebel and you could not afford a 5D or a 5D Mark II like myself, I went for the 7D. I feel like it was a step up, and the way I purchase and use things is I purchase and use them knowing I'm going to sell it.
She calls them rentals.
I almost call it a rental.
She does call it a rental.
Because I use a product for a year, maybe not even a full year, and I turn around and sell it either on Craigslist or eBay. And then
She's a serial seller, and I'm not even kidding you.
And then I bump up to the next model. So I did purchase this knowing that I really do want the 5D Mark II. But at the time, I just couldn't afford that right off the bat, and this being $700 cheaper, that's kind of what I did. So I am currently using the 7D, which I love. It is so much easier to use and feels so much stronger than the Rebel. This focuses a lot quicker and it's faster. The LCD screen is larger. However, I was still using the Rebel T1i, so I know some Rebels further along, like T2, T3, T4, are better than the Rebel that I was using. But if you want to make a little bump up to something a little bit more professional feel, this is an awesome camera if you can't afford to go all the way up to the full frame.
I want to say something really quick too.
Yes.
So I don't use her camera very often, but one of the things when she does have me take photos, like if it's her kid's birthday party or something, Something that I love about the 7D versus the Rebel is that the 7D has this little info screen at the top that can show you your aperture and your ISO and your shutter speed, and at least the Rebel that she had, the T1i, it did not have this screen up here. It only showed you on the back screen, which to me was so obnoxious because I like to just be able to look up here to change my settings instead of having to look on my back menu. So that's just something that I think is different from the Rebel that I think is a selling point if you want to shoot in manual and have a more professional experience, is this top information bar right here. That's all I had to say.
But so just real quick, do I recommend it? Absolutely. It's a great camera. Will I keep it forever? Absolutely not.
I don't think you keep any camera forever.
Because I really want a full frame camera because I want to be able to use my lenses to their maximum ability. But for now, this is awesome. It's perfect. It pairs perfectly with my 50mm 1.4, and I just love it. It's my camera for now. Until I sell it, maybe it'll be your camera.
Who knows? Keep updated with us. And to the settings that she was talking about, like the autofocusing stuff that she changed, we aren't going to go into specifics because this will vary from camera to camera. But basically you just want to go into the custom functions on your camera menu, and you're going to want to change it to be the AF button on the back or the asterisk button. But you kind of have to play around with it to
choose which button you want to autofocus.
Yeah. You're going to want to change it to be one of these AF buttons or the asterisk button. You're going to want to choose that as your autofocus
in size
button.
comparison, right here is the 5D Mark II and the 7D. So the 5D Mark II is larger,
Barely.
but not much. The only difference is I have this annoying pop-up flash piece there. So you can kind of see that the backs are very similar. Just a little different. If I were holding...
Which one is which? You don't even know.
If I were
Let's
holding
play
the
Cupid
Rebel,
Shuffle.
that's when you really can notice a difference, is when you're holding it with the Rebel. So...
You don't even know.
So, great camera, easy to use, backed by Canon. I've never had an issue with Canon.
I have $1 million question for you.
Yes.
Do you think that the image difference between the Canon Rebel and the 7D is worth the price difference between the two cameras?
Absolutely, I do. Now, it could have been, and you all know that I did have some focusing issues on my Rebel that were few and far between. Yeah, I think the pictures out of the 7D are so much crisper and cleaner and just brighter, everything.
Good to know.
I feel this has so much higher ISO capabilities.
Good to have.
Yeah, it's a huge step up from the Rebel. So if you really want to make that step up, do it. It's awesome. I think Costco sells it.
She's a
but
huge
still,
Costco fan because of their return policy.
But that's not the case with electronics. You only get 90 days with electronics at Costco. That wasn't the case in the prior years. But still, my
Your
best
husband's
bet.
calling you.
Best bet would be seriously.
Sorry.
Best bet on this, I always say buy it through Amazon. And always read and look at reviews on a camera too before you purchase it. And
That's probably why they're watching this video. Hey!
This camera though has awesome reviews, and it's backed with Canon's warranty, so I wouldn't really question it. It's just awesome. It's definitely a greater feel than working with the Rebel.
Good to
For
know.
sure. Yes.
Good to know. Good to know.
And here's call me when you get a second.
That's probably going to be in 3 seconds when we're done. Thanks for watching.
If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and just ask us below, and we thank you for watching.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.